make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water, and and that the wind conditions were right, and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
Yeah, you know, I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish.
You know, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't.
Mel Gibson has launched another fiery attack at Gavin Newsom in their ongoing and explosive feud, and this latest strike hits with even more power than anything before. Their conflict has been burning non-stop since last year's devastating California wildfires, and neither seems willing to take even a single step back as the tension keeps rising. Gibson, whose Pacific Palisades mansion was destroyed and left in smoldering ruins, is now pushing Californians with intense determination to replace Newsom with someone who can finally guide the state with real strength, clarity, and responsibility. His bold new statements have blasted across social media, triggering an avalanche of emotional, dramatic, and wildly unpredictable reactions, especially from Newsom, who has been responding with some of his most heated and surprising moments yet. Every intense exchange, every sudden outburst, and every shocking twist is unfolding in full view, and this entire showdown is building toward an even hotter eruption that promises more drama, more conflict, and more explosive energy than ever before.
Mel, any message from you to Governor Newsom or Karen Bass tonight?
Spend less on hair gel.
Short, sharp, and absolutely ruthless. Mel Gibson cannot stand how Gavin Newsom seems more focused on maintaining his flawless, perfectly styled hair than caring for the people who rely on him every single day. Newsom's obsession with his polished appearance is so extreme that it feels impossible to catch even one moment where his shiny, slicked-back hairstyle isn't glowing like it belongs on a red carpet instead of in a crisis zone. Meanwhile, California is struggling under unbearable pressure. Crushing taxes, layers of government obstacles, growing unrest in the streets, soaring homelessness, and entire cities drowning in trash and exhaustion as everyday life becomes harder to manage. Yet despite all this chaos, Newsom shows no real concern at all, acting as if nothing matters except the reflection he sees in the mirror while Californians suffer, worry, and desperately hope for someone who actually pays attention to their needs.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable. Turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors.
Mel Gibson and Greg Gutfeld didn't hesitate for even a second. They went after Gavin Newsom with full force, accusing him of dragging California into a dark and chaotic decline with his reckless and heavily criticized woke policies. They argued that Newsom wasn't just ignoring the homelessness crisis, but was practically putting it on display like some strange political decoration, treating it as something to showcase instead of something to fix. Instead of clearing dangerous encampments or offering real solutions, he pushed forward with decisions that allowed even more tents to appear in struggling neighborhoods, turning once beautiful areas into heartbreaking scenes of destruction and despair. The results were devastating. Streets filled with trash, scattered needles, and a heavy sense of hopelessness that left entire communities feeling unrecognizable and forgotten. Under Newsom's leadership, California's shine has dimmed dramatically, and even Trump recently stepped in to call out what he sees as clear evidence of failing leadership, turning the issue into a national discussion that refuses to fade away.
I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish.
You know, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts and I know what I want to say. I won't.
How could anyone claim President Trump's statement was political when it wasn't a calculated tactic at all? It was a direct and unavoidable truth delivered with absolute clarity and no hesitation. Gavin Newsom openly approved the removal of a dam that could have slowed down or even stopped the destructive Palisades fire, a decision that left countless Californians stunned once they learned the reasoning behind it. And what was the purpose of such a risky move? To protect one endangered fish and gain praise from a small group of local indigenous leaders, turning a serious public safety issue into a symbolic gesture designed to boost his image instead of saving real communities in danger. That dam could have stored crucial water reserves for firefighters, potentially saving homes, wildlife, and lives that are now lost forever because of one poorly timed decision. Instead of prioritizing people, Newsom chose a dramatic environmental display that offered no real protection, placing appearance over responsibility and symbolism over safety. And now, Californians are paying the painful price for a choice fueled by ambition instead of real leadership.
I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water and and that the wind conditions were right and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know. But they seem pretty well equipped, some of these people that they're catching.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions, Mel. Mel, a message tonight.
Yeah, you know, I'll sift through the remains of my place and see if I can find any clues for you.
This is the moment when the entire situation explodes into full-scale drama, pushing the story into even more shocking territory. Investigators uncovered evidence suggesting several of the Pacific Palisades fires may have been started by local teens, and possibly a few transient campers. But what truly stunned everyone was the alarming collection of items officers found during the arrests. Among the seized objects were fire accelerants, protective gear, and crude ignition tools that no ordinary teenager or casual camper would ever have for innocent reasons, instantly raising suspicions about the real motive behind these fires. The disturbing assortment painted a chilling picture that felt calculated and deliberate, almost as if someone had guided, encouraged, or even paid these individuals to set the flames intentionally for reasons that remain hidden. That discovery caused Mel Gibson's concerns to skyrocket, intensifying his belief that this might be yet another carefully staged political setup, a crisis engineered for control, manipulation, and possible access to federal funding. To Gibson, it feels like a familiar pattern repeating itself, where disaster becomes a tool for power, and the people are left questioning who is truly protecting them.
Welcome to a new segment called Gavin's Hands. He keeps his hands in motion and his hair full of lotion. True, Gavin's views may be idiotic, but his hands moves, well, they're hypnotic. California Governor Newsom's new podcast is out. It's available wherever fine hair care products are sold.
The most frustrating twist in this entire unfolding drama is Gavin Newsom's newest vanity project, his very own podcast, which turned out to be just as self-focused and overly polished as many people expected. He claims the show is meant to feature meaningful conversations with people who challenge him or individuals he claims to admire. But the reality feels completely different from the shiny message he promotes. Instead of real dialogue, the podcast comes across as a carefully constructed publicity engine, created to reshape his image, test how audiences react to him, and quietly pave the path for a future presidential campaign without ever admitting it outright. Every guest, every neatly crafted question, and every rehearsed moment seems chosen to guard his narrative, reduce criticism, and highlight only the angles that make him appear thoughtful and visionary, even when the truth feels far less impressive. Rather than authentic connection, the project feels like a stage built for self-promotion, where every word and every scene is designed to strengthen his political ambitions instead of offering genuine honesty. Mel Gibson sees right through it and refuses to be fooled, calling the whole performance exactly what it is: political theater wrapped in smooth presentation and strategic charm.
Ponders why Dems lost.
We lost the popular vote and we lost the electoral vote. We got crushed. And we need to be humble about that, and we need to have some grace, and we need to understand why. Was it because of the incumbency penalty? Was it because of inflation? Was it because of interest rates? Was it because of immigration? Was it because we were too, quote unquote, woke?
Kennedy, I think the answer is yes. Was
it because of Israel? Yes. Interest rates? Yes. Too woke?
Once again, Gavin Newsom has spiraled into a dramatic meltdown over the 2024 elections, and this latest reaction exposes far more than he ever intended to reveal. The truth is that many within the Democratic circle never believed Donald Trump had any real chance of returning to power, because they spent years painting him as the ultimate threat while convincing themselves that his influence had been permanently erased. But while they mocked him and dismissed every move he made, Trump quietly rebuilt his momentum, sharpened his message, and turned every misstep from the Biden era into fuel for a powerful comeback that no one saw coming. Instead of offering strong leadership or addressing the problems hurting everyday Americans, Democrats poured their energy into flashy insults and empty media stunts that did nothing to help struggling families survive rising pressure. So when the final votes rolled in, Trump shocked them all with a return that shattered their confidence and tore apart the narrative they worked so hard to control. Newsom's latest outburst isn't just irritation, it's genuine fear, because the political structure they depended on is cracking right in front of them, and Trump's resurgence has thrown their long-planned strategies into complete chaos.
So the issues of audits, I mean, I was commenting when I was with President Trump, we talked about the high-speed rail, and there was some discussion, before the public presentation on high-speed rail last week around audits. I think we've been audited 100 times there. Happy to see another audit. At a certain point, you have audit fatigue. I think at the end of the day, people want outcomes and they want results for their money spent. Audits for audit's sake service no one, just services headlines. What people want is problems solved, and they want to see it. They want to believe it. They don't want to hear it, and they don't want to hear excuses and rhetoric.
This was the moment when President Trump finally reached his breaking point and announced an official audit into California's high-speed rail project, and the move was long overdue, as frustration had been building for years. This so-called transformational project has devoured enormous amounts of taxpayer money, yet Californians have been left with little more than scattered pieces of track, endless construction delays, and a growing pile of excuses that seem to stretch into infinity. Costs continue to skyrocket without any clear explanation. Deadlines drift further and further away, and accountability has completely vanished, leaving residents exhausted and desperate for clarity. When Trump revealed the audit, Newsom immediately snapped back, insisting the project had already been reviewed 100 times. But everyone knows those earlier reviews were highly controlled political performances that exposed nothing, changed nothing, and protected everything. This time, however, Newsom felt the pressure closing in because a real independent investigation could finally reveal the mismanagement, confusion, and potential corruption hidden deep within one of California's most expensive and embarrassing infrastructure failures. The walls were tightening fast, and Newsom clearly sensed that the truth was getting dangerously close to coming out.
In 2019, I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed.
Joe Rogan, once a proud California resident, jumped into the conversation with absolutely no hesitation, expressing how heartbreaking it was to watch the Golden State crumble under Gavin Newsom's leadership. He described how a place that once overflowed with creativity, opportunity, and a vibrant sense of innovation had transformed into a stressful, overwhelming environment that felt nearly impossible to live in anymore. Rogan explained that California had become practically unlivable because of extreme living costs, constant overregulation, and the heavy influence of cancel culture, which he said suffocated free expression and made people afraid to speak openly. After thriving in Los Angeles for years, he now uses his massive platform to highlight how dramatically the state has fallen. Noting that his experience isn't unique, thousands of others have already left, voting with their feet, as they escape what they view as a rapid collapse of creativity and personal freedom. He made it clear that his decision wasn't just about taxes, it was about preserving his ability to create, think freely, and live without feeling restricted by an atmosphere that no longer resembled the California he once loved, pushing countless residents to search for a place where they can breathe, grow, and feel inspired again.
Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office.
Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass have pushed Californians past their breaking point, and it's clearer than ever that they have nothing meaningful left to offer as the state sinks deeper into disorder and exhaustion. Under their leadership, California has been overwhelmed by homelessness, rising crime, inflation, and a government system that keeps expanding while delivering less and less support to the people who need it most, leaving once bright cities looking like worn-down disaster zones filled with tents, boarded-up shops, and families fleeing out of fear and frustration. Their heavily promoted progressive policies have produced nothing but flashy headlines and empty promises, failing to deliver real solutions and making everyday life harder for millions of residents who feel ignored and abandoned. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson, who has lived in California his entire life, has finally reached the point where he can no longer stay silent, joining a fast-growing movement of residents demanding accountability after years of watching politicians chase cameras, praise, and public approval instead of providing help. Californians aren't just tired anymore, they're furious, and that anger is transforming into a powerful demand for genuine leadership, real protection, and meaningful change, sending a loud message that people are ready to fight for a future built on results, not rehearsed speeches or carefully crafted photo ops.
Now, I understand you offered Gavin Newsom help in handling his unrest. I understand that didn't go over too well.
Yeah, they accused us of trying to, quote, escalate. But I can tell you what escalates the situation is being a sanctuary state. What escalates the situation is tolerating the looting and the rioting and the burning of these vehicles and attacks on law enforcement. And we do it just the opposite in Florida. When the 2020 riots were happening in Minneapolis, California, all these other places, we didn't let that happen in Florida. But we also recognize, like, this is what the left does. So we did landmark anti-rioting legislation.
Governor Ron DeSantis has stepped forward with a bold and confident model of real leadership, proving exactly how a state can operate with strength, clarity, and genuine protection for its people, something Gavin Newsom could learn from immediately. DeSantis enforced firm anti-riot laws and made it unmistakably clear that chaos would never be tolerated, sending officers in quickly and decisively to stop disorder before it could spread, which kept Florida calm, safe, and stable during moments that could have easily spiraled into disaster. Meanwhile, in California, Newsom hesitated to support law enforcement, embraced softer approaches toward crime, and focused heavily on political image rather than safeguarding the citizens who depend on him, leaving the state vulnerable, stressed, and overwhelmed by growing instability. The contrast between the two states is dramatic. Florida stood strong while California stumbled under weak decision-making and confusing priorities. DeSantis' strategy isn't about showmanship. It's about real results, discipline, and earning public trust through decisive actions that genuinely protect families and communities. And if Newsom truly cared about Californians, he would drop the performance-driven politics and adopt proven methods that restore safety, stability, and confidence for everyone, creating the kind of leadership people deserve as this story continues to unfold with even more intensity.